All right, hey folks, we're going to continue working on the Spelljammer Eberron campaign that we've been developing here at lunchtime. So give me a second here to check my signal, make sure we're live. I'll boost my signal, and then we'll get to work here for an hour. So mic check, I'll boost my signal. Sounds like I'm coming through okay. So let's see, let's press some buttons here. While I press a bunch of buttons, I'll distract you with my story here real quick. So my name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since the release of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica in 2017. Boy, it's been a while. Ravnica is one of the cornerstone settings in the Magic the Gathering game. And since Wizards owns both Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons, it was clever of them to create a D&D game for Magic the Gathering. But they converted Magic into the D&D spell slot and 8 schools of magic system instead of introducing the idea of like color mana or anything like that. So that was an opportunity for us to go ahead and dive in and create a color mana system, and so that we could have games that feel more like Magic the Gathering with color magic and all that good stuff. So actually there's a link to that in the description down below. Along with a number of other books that I've created on the DMs Guild. And let's see, I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you're still on the Twitter X platform, you can follow me at Phil Kearney. Best way to catch signal in the future when I'm active is to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications. Here's a full playlist of the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book that we've been building over the past year. And now that it's almost ready to go, we're expecting it to be up and running in about a week, maybe hopefully less, but we'll see how long it takes. But we have been developing, and I will eventually make this available for folks online. Right now, it's my Google Doc workbench for the Asteroid Belt campaign that is leaning heavily into skill challenges, Dungeons & Dragons style skill challenges, where you've got bounded accuracy from on a scale of 1 to 10. Challenges are, hold on, let me find our difficulty. There we go. On a scale of 0 to 10, a difficulty of 0 is a natural 1. And then a difficulty of 10 is a 31. So the D&D 5th edition bounded accuracy scales from 1 to 31. We're well within curve there. And you can actually, if you have a +5 in your stat and a +6 to your proficiency modifier, and then you roll a 20, you can hit a 31 if you roll perfectly a natural 20. The way that we have the game is that if you have your guild is performing, has 4 different industries that they can perform tasks in each game cycle, and a cycle is apparently 10 days. So commerce, lore, loyalty, and military are the 4 industries that we build resources in. So commerce is for delving into asteroids and extracting ore and wealth from them. Lore is prospecting asteroid fields and performing espionage against other organizations. Loyalty covers diplomacy as well as acquisitions with different guilds and resource centers. Military is combat, both hand-to-hand or at the character level, as well as the fighter squad level, like the fighter ship level. We also have mecha combat, and we have warship combat. So there's a number of different scales of combat that we're operating in, and then scouting is basically looking for hostile threats in different asteroid territories. So these are all tasks that can be performed as a skill challenge. You make one die roll, and whatever the result is on your table, that is the level of difficulty that you achieved here. So like if I have a second rank guild, that would be a +2 modifier plus the d20, and since they're second rank, we're using proficiency dice, which is a d4, d6, d8, d10, and d12. So a second rank organization can roll up to a 26, up to a 28. So anywhere from a 4 to a 28, which means they have a scale of 1 to 9 that they can hit. And as they gain ranks in an industry, like if they're military, if they push military all the way up to 5th rank, they'll have a potential 37 that they can roll. And at 5th rank, the kind of challenges that they're going to be facing are going to be 8, 9, and 10, 25, 28, and 31. So depending on how severe the challenge, it could be a 7 or it could be an 11. It just depends on how severe of a challenge it is that we create. But generally, we're going to stay inside of that range. So what happens is if the team rolls whatever level of difficulty the team rolls, you compare it to the difficulty of the threat. If it's the same level as the threat, then you're going to deal 1 point of progress. If it's lower, if it's higher than the difficulty, like let's go with a difficulty of say a difficulty of 3. Okay, super simple, like a common task for a 1st ranked team, which is where our team is at right now. So if I were to roll a 16 or 17 or an 18, if I were to roll a 5th level difficulty, then that's 2 levels above the 3. That means I'm going to do 2 points of progress. That would either be like hit points of damage, or in like deconstructing a lock, or deciphering a code, or figuring out a diplomatic solution to a problem. But the difficulty is how many hits of success that you need to be able to resolve the task. So if they rolled a 17, that's 2 above 10. That means that they resolve 2. That's 1, 2. So that's 2 tasks that they resolve. If they were to roll a 10, 11, or a 12, the same level of difficulty, then that would be a 1. If it were to be a 13, 14, and 15, that's 1 above 3. That's also a 1. At 5, it's 2. If they had rolled a 19 or better, then it would have resolved the task with that single die roll. But if they had rolled below the difficulty, like say they rolled an 8, that's a difficulty of 2, and they are dealing with a difficulty of 10, a 3rd rank difficulty. So they got 1 point of progress no matter what. But it creates a new complication, and the level of complication is going to either be a separate new complication that is going to have to be dealt with separately from their current problem, or the current thing that they're dealing with, it escalates and becomes more difficult as a result of them failing. Like if they were say having a diplomatic negotiation, a negotiation with like say a Dargoon clan to gain right to be able to enter their territory to mine an asteroid that's floating out of your jurisdiction into their protected territories. You may decide to have a diplomacy check to see if they would allow you to mine that asteroid without being attacked for invading their territory. That might be a difficulty 6 task. So maybe it starts off as a 4 task, like unusually easy to do, but you botch the roll. Say you roll a 2, or you roll an 8, and you were supposed to roll on this difficulty of 5. What would we say? A difficulty of 4. If you rolled an 8, that's 2 levels lower. So you make 1 point of progress towards resolving that task of getting access to that asteroid. But now I could either introduce. You only have to have 3 more ranks. You only have 3 more degrees of success to get that asteroid. But since your result was 2 less than the difficulty 4 you were attempting, I could either increase the difficulty from 4 to 6, and you've already gotten 1 victory off of it, or I could leave it at 4 and create a new problem that needs to be resolved either in tandem or before resolving the initial problem. Like, we'd be happy to help you. However, we have a difficulty in that there is a rogue clan inside of that territory that is attempting independence from our sovereign. So we can't guarantee they won't attack your team even if we granted you those rights. So maybe we could grant you those rights, but I can't guarantee you're not going to be attacked. I can just guarantee you that we're not going to get attacked. If you want to resolve stuff with them, sure. And honestly, if you can resolve it with them, yeah, we'll help you out. So now you've broken up the task into they're waiting to see how well you can deal with this like skull splitter clan that's going rogue inside of their territory. That if you can lock them down, then they will like say how those 2 points apply towards the difficulty 4 that you're already trying to achieve. So you could, if you can take out the skull splitters, that'll give you 2 points, and then you'd only have 1 point left. And so the next time you approach them, it's like, hey, we took care of the skull splitters. Are you guys in with us or not? You're automatic. Even if you fuck something up, you're still going to succeed because you'll have hit the 4 points that you needed to clear the difficulty 4. And if in that circumstances you screwed up your roll again and created a new complication, they could instead say, you know, things shifted. It's not going to be that easy anymore. Instead of a difficulty 4, it now becomes, say, a difficulty 6. And even though you've gotten 4 successes, the difficulty just shifted on you and it became a 6 instead of a 4. It's even going to be more difficult for you to achieve that goal right now, even though you'd already put in a considerable amount of work to try to clear it up as it was. Or I could allow that to get cleared. It's like, yeah, we'll happily give you rights. However, a new problem cropped up, and now you have another complication that you have to resolve. So them rolling dice to make these skill checks resolves whatever it is that they want to do. They'll eventually be able to achieve it, but it's going to become more difficult and create more complications. Like if it's something that I think should be something that they like, I want them to have this, but I want them to tussle for it. So that would be me leaving the difficulty where it's at and then introducing new difficulties. If this is something that's like, you know, if they achieve this goal, it's going to create more problems for them than it's worth, or it's a direction that I don't want to go in with the narrative right now, I could, as a DM, decide instead to keep ramping up the difficulty of the task to a point where it's impossible for them to achieve it. Once again, you tell them what the difficulty is. It's like, well, shit, we can't even do that now. It's like, well, every time you try, you're just going to create a new problem for yourself. That means you have to abandon that project until your character is a high enough rank to actually be able to hit the numbers that you need. That means you need to put it off. Meanwhile, you've created all these new problems. Maybe the skull splitters had to run in defeat as you used your military to apply pressure to drive them out of the zone. But now the issue that you have is that they're laying bombs inside of all the asteroids that are coming within range. So even though they had to clear out their territory, and even though you got clearance to work there, everything's booby-trapped. So if you want your miners to go in and be able to extract resources safely, you have to go in and clean the mines out. And now that becomes a delving challenge that your team can participate in, or can relegate to an NPC team of delvers to make their die roll to clear it out. So during the course of an adventure, whatever task they're deciding to focus their attention on, you can just cascade through increasing difficulties, or creating making the problem they're working on even more difficult to resolve, potentially resulting in them having more and more complications crop up that they have to deal with over the course of the adventure. So in that sense, as a DM, I specifically don't prep. What I do is I prep a theme and in a general idea of where we're going to be able to go. Like I'll hold off on an example. I want to go through the first dungeon delve and plot out what happens with that dungeon, so that we can come back and as a review of what happened to see what we can do to refine our techniques. I've got a couple dungeons built that have have low difficulties. And then I have a stack of complications that could occur. So I'm using the 5-room dungeon format. And each room, there's like the guardian, and then there's a puzzle, and then there is the treasure, and then there's the boss, and then there is the curiosity. So there's this 5 different types of rooms that are set up in this dungeon. And the dungeon is basically caverns inside of an asteroid that they're digging through to extract ore, and then they run into a problem. The problem is the Guardian. So that's the front door that they face. And the Guardian could be either a combat challenge, it could be a hazard, or it could be an enchantment of some sort. So it's going to be basically one of those 3 types of challenges that they're going to have to send a delving team in to figure out how to, what do they need to do to get past this obstacle so they can continue mining this resource for wealth while they're in this enemy territory, for instance. And so you send in your team, and I've got the 5 rooms set up with those 5 major descriptors. And then I have the challenge of the room and what I assume the challenge is, but it's up to the team to decide however it is that they want to resolve that challenge. And then it's just a difficulty. On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is it going to be to achieve what they're trying to do? And if they hit those numbers, they clear the threat. So then they can go on. That's why you have a 5-room dungeon, so that you can have threat. If they clear out a threat easily, then they advance to the next room, making progress, which introduces a new challenge. And if at any point along the way that they create a complication with that challenge, they could set themselves up to have a cascade of problems that just continue to feed out of what they do, as they have to keep making more die rolls to be able to resolve the current challenge and whatever the new complication is, either escalating the risk, the difficulty of the current challenge, making it more likely that you'll create more complications from that, or creating a second complication to break up their action economy, so they have to deal with multiple threats. I would say in combat scenarios where there's direct risk to the characters, creating new threats, the complications are new challenges that stack on top. Like you add a mob, for instance, that would be a complication that is now going to require your effort to break up your action economy to resolve the original threat. Plus now you have a mob to deal with. If you're dealing with a boss fight, you could either add mobs, or the boss could blood frenzy, and now you increase the difficulty by whatever, representing that you've bloodied it and now it's angry. So now it's even more difficult to defeat. Good luck. So that's kind of the idea that goes on how the system works, and it's basically just ability checks, and you're just measuring the degree of success in your ability check versus the expected number. High is good, you eliminate the threat quicker. Below is bad, you either make the threat more difficult or you create a new challenge that is working in tandem with the original threat that you're still working on. And it has a progress meter of 1 to 10. So the higher the level of the difficulty, the less likely you are to be able to make more progress than just 1 point at a time. A difficulty 10 requires 10 degrees of success to be able to clear from your plate. And if your team is only capable of can only roll a 31, like maybe 1 out of 8 times, this is going to be a really difficult threat for them to overcome. They may need to find some way to be able to stack favors and bonuses for them, so they have to circle back around. They could achieve a quest that'll help reduce the difficulty of a task. So if they achieve a goal someplace else, they could use that success to drop the difficulty of other things that were hanging on that success. Like in that, the Skull Splitter clan was a difficulty 2 complication with negotiating that rocks. So if, say, clearing those Skull Splitters, maybe that drops the complication from 4 to 3. And since you've already gotten 3 points of success, when you clear the Skull Splitters, you automatically are going to be granted access to the mining rights for that quadrant, because that was the agreement that you made with the Dargoon the Dargoon Warlord. Take care of this threat, and we'll go ahead and grant you access. So you cleared the threat, that drops the difficulty to a point where you've achieved the goal. There you go, easy peasy. So that's the general cadence of it. So right now what we're doing is we've figured out extraction, we've figured out delving. The next things that we need to work on is going to be espionage, prospecting, acquisition, diplomacy, combat, and scouting. These are the remaining 6 tasks that we have on the board. So let's see what we can do to continue playing this stuff out. And I've got about 40 minutes left on the clock for me to be able to play. We'll see how much progress I make before we clear out. Let's see. Let's see. How does this work? Acquisitions. Let's not do acquisitions right now. I can bold delving because we've resolved it. Guardian, Puzzle, Curiosity, Boss, and Reward. Let's see. Guardian is going to be monster, hazard, or enchantment. And we use maze rats to create random stuff to challenge the team with. Puzzles can be a trap. It could be a it could be a negotiation of some sort. What else could a puzzle be? Trap, negotiating creatures, and I could swear there's, why am I not thinking this? Trap is something you have to figure out to keep yourself from getting hurt. Negotiating is figuring something out to get help or to prevent combat. Hey, Gronix, how you doing? It's good to see you. So let's see, there's traps, there's negotiations, and the puzzle in negotiations is not knowing what their goals, objectives are, and what they're willing to do to achieve them, and how the team is preventing them from doing that. If like you're, a puzzle could be like if you are invading an intelligent creature's space because you want the minerals that are inside of its home, like if it lives in an asteroid and it doesn't recognize the value of gold, or it just knows that there's creatures running around inside of its home digging at its walls, you may need to negotiate with that creature to keep it from becoming hostile. Or you could negotiate with that creature to show you where there's a lot of gold deposits that maybe are away from its lair. So although we know about this gold deposit, maybe there's another gold deposit you can show us that would allow us to prevent us from causing you trouble. That's one way that you could have a puzzle. But I could swear there's got to be... a hazard is basically kind of like a trap. Let's see. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking about barrier. There we go. Barrier to progress. Yeah, traps. Traps negotiating with creatures, and barrier. Yeah, barrier to... a trap is a creature could be considered a barrier. A trap could be considered a barrier. An obstacle, like an obstacle isn't necessarily something threatening, but it requires your action economy to do something with. So obstacle. I feel like that's the right way to do that. And then a curiosity can be environmental, creature, or an object. Persons, places, and things. So whatever the curiosity is in the 5-room dungeon, whatever this particular spot is, it's a curiosity. It'll either be something weird about the room, or something in the room about the room itself, something that an object that's in the room, or a creature that's in the room. And so we can just random that stuff up with a D6. So when we're building a random 5-room dungeon, it'd be 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. Puzzles would be 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6. So I'm just going to roll a 6-sided die. When I create my 5-room dungeon, I can roll a D10. I can roll a D10, a D4. Like here. Let's go to our handy dandy sample map over here, and build a quick little 5-room dungeon. There we go. Territories. All right, so if we're going to build a 5-room dungeon, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. So I'm just building a quick little cavern system here. And this is going to represent burrows inside of an asteroid that the delving team has to go in to clear out. And the team will basically, I'm hoping that a 5-room dungeon like this, they'll be able to resolve in 3 hours. We have 1 hour per week that we get to play at lunchtime. We have 6 people that are playing. So I'm thinking just a classic 5-room dungeon, super easy. But I don't want to put a lot of work into building these things because it's a super light, free flow narrative type of system. So, but this is basically what our cavern system looks like. We'll build it out like that. Cool little cavern, right? And so the team knows that there's ore down inside of here, and they're currently at this point here, which is where they're trying to get their mining crew to go into, but there's threats inside of here. So we're going to burp. Room number 1 is always going to be the Guardian. So 1 equals is the Guardian. And so when we look at the Guardian, we're going to roll a D6. So in this circumstance, it's a monster. So we're going to have a monster in this room. That leaves me with 4 different types of rooms that are open. The curiosity, the boss, and the reward. Right? So you would logically think that the reward is going to be at the back end of this. There's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you don't necessarily know which order the team is going to proceed. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 equals reward. Here we go. So number 2 and 3, 4 and 5 are going to be boss and reward. And so if they go this way and they get to room 2 here, and then they could go here, or they could go here, or they could have gone. They could go. Let me word this differently. I'll get rid of that stuff. I'll just build a new layer. Okay, so they could go this way, or they could go this way when they come in. Whichever one they go into is going to be room number 2. Doesn't matter yet. Let's say they go into that one. So room number 2 is going to be either going to be a puzzle or a curiosity. So I'll just roll a d6. It'll be 1 to 3. I rolled a 1. So this room's going to be, number 2 is going to be a curiosity. And curiosity is going to be a D6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2. So it's going to be an environmental curiosity. And then I can roll. And then that means that number 3 is going to be a puzzle. But I don't know if they're going to go this way for 3 or if they're going to go this way for 3. So let's say they go this way for 3 to make things interesting. So this is where their puzzle is going to be, and that puzzle could be a trap, a negotiation with some sort of a creature, or it could be an obstacle. So I'm going to roll a d6, and it is a 3, so it's going to be a negotiation with a creature. And then the boss, so they went to 3. So the next place that they're logically going to go to, they could decide to backtrack to here, or they could decide to advance to here. And I honestly don't care which one it is, but the one, I think the furthest, I think the way that I want to build this, or make the assumption, is that the furthest location from the entrance is where the reward is going to be. So that would put that at 5. That means that the boss is here at 4. So there was an environmental challenge here, and they went this way. If they had complications with this environmental challenge here during the curiosity, that could draw the attention of the boss in room 4. And we already dealt with the Guardian in the monster area, so the boss, and I don't think we have any variables for the boss. The boss is just going to be the highest CR, the highest difficulty in the room. So highest range difficulty. Here and adjust this. And the difficulty that we're generally going to be working with for first rank, let's see, let's get past extractions, let's get down here into combat where we have our difficulties generally laid out. Here's our scale of difficulties. So this is actually too aggressive. I need to the max that, okay, so a first ranked character is going to be rolling, is going to have at best a +3 in one of their stats, and they have a +2 in their proficiency modifier, so that's a max of +5. A d20 is going to be that's a 25, and then they at first rank they have a D4 proficiency. There's first rank, second rank, third rank, up to fifth rank. There's D4, D6, D8, D10, D12 that they can apply effort to, kind of like giving themselves a variable expertise once per round. So they've got a base max of 25 plus a D4. That means they could potentially, if everything goes perfectly, they could hit a difficulty of 9. But while that is their high-end possibility, they could also, since their stat line is +3, +2, +1, 0, -1, -2, at any time they could be they could be required to make an ability check using their dump stat, and they might not be proficient, which means on that D20 they're going to be at best a -2. But if they could potentially apply effort to add the D4 to it, it'll be anywhere from a -2, like they could get like a -1, or a 0 if they apply effort, and if they at the high end of effort, it'd be a D4 plus a natural 20 -2. That would be at best a 22. So technically, a first ranked character can cap out at a DC 22. But most of their stats are going to end up being somewhere inside of the 10 to 16 bandwidth range. So I'm generally going to go with like, so I want to get rid of these things because these are no longer accurate numbers to really go with. And again, a third difficulty requires 3 successes to clear. 4 is 4 successes. 10 is 10 successes. And depending on how successful your roll is, you subtract the difficulty you achieve from the difficulty of the challenge to see how many degrees of success you resolve with that action. So I could afford to have, the team could potentially, like if I have, since the team only has 1 stat that's any good when they use effort with it, I can't at first rank have them dealing with 19s and 20, like 19 is too high. Like 16 is difficult, very difficult. So they're the common range that I think is going to be realistic for a first rank character. And again, it's only 5 ranks. I think is 10 to, I think is 3, 4, and 5. So I think that's where I'm going to start things. And again, as I was describing earlier, if they screw up the die roll, if they make it worse, they could start escalating a difficulty. So if the boss is a difficulty 5 and they roll a 7, 8, or a 9, they miss that degree of, they miss that success. They failed by a degree of 3. So if I were to make that boss fight, if I were to ramp that difficulty up 3 as a result of their challenge, it would be it'd be a roll of 25, virtually impossible for them to hit. So what I could do instead is escalate that. I could leave the challenge here at 16, but then introduce, since they missed it by 3, I could introduce a new difficulty on top of the boss fight with a 3. So let's go back to the dungeon here. Let's say that they're dealing with the curiosity here as an environmental challenge that may be preventing them from being able to go to 3. Like maybe there's like a bunch of runes that are carved into the walls. They're obviously ancient and you can smell that there's magic on them. So, and it doesn't look like there's any tracks in the next room. So that tells us that the puzzle room that's in number 3 is generally avoided by the creatures. I'm just making this up as I go along because I can just make it up as I go along while we're playing as a DM. So that means that they're dealing, that while they're messing around with these runes, let's say they, if they succeed at disarming or figuring out how to get around the runes, that allows them to advance into the puzzle area of number 3. But if while they're dealing with that curiosity, if say they rolled poorly, they will create a complication. And if that complication is the boss, then the boss, that difficulty 5 boss could decide to show up in the curiosity room and start threatening the players because they're invading that creature's space. And during that challenge, if the players don't hit the 16 that they need to start whittling down that boss one way or another, either through combat or negotiation or trickery of some sort, if they start racking up those fails, and in this instance, like they rolled that 8, so they had 3 degrees of difficulty, maybe the boss knows what the problems with that puzzle is that if you try to cross those barriers without fixing them, maybe they deal electrical damage, right? So when you fail the die roll against the boss, the complication that it creates is that the boss pushes or shoves whoever it is that's attacking them, that failed the roll, pushes them. They get 1 point of progress on taking out the boss, but the complication is that the boss chucks you into the runes that you haven't figured out how to fix yet. So now your team, now whoever that is getting shock damage, and maybe it paralyzes them for the round or something. So that's the challenge that they have to face. The challenge is that they now have to make a saving throw against difficulty 3 to get out of being paralyzed. Like while they remain in those runes, they're being shocked and frozen in place. So they have to, each turn, they have to spend action economy to try to successfully will their body to move despite the electrical damage, the electrical harm that they're taking, so they can re-enter the conflict. So the difficulty that they're facing is overcoming that condition. And until they can achieve that condition, until they can defeat that condition, they don't get to participate in knocking down the boss. So that's like one way that we can express complications in this scenario specifically. So let's go. We already looked at the boss. Another thing I could have done is done adds. Like if you try to damage the boss, you don't do it, then he adds maybe he has a legend that triggers a legendary action that normally he wouldn't have, but since you created a complication for yourself, that triggers the boss to I don't know, breathe fire on everyone, and now everyone has to make a difficulty 3 check against the breath weapon or take fire damage as a result of it. Or it could be the boss summons allies from another room, whichever room they haven't explored yet, to help. Or maybe it can animate rocks, so what was a room full of stone is now a room full of enemies. That could be a way that they could add enemies. I can create a general theme for what the dungeon is and a theme for the creatures around them, and then come up with 3 or 4 different things that those creatures could do as a result of triggering complications. So that's the idea behind that. So let's go. Actually, I want to grab this. Go back up here to delving. So first rank should probably be scale. How about and then if it's second rank, they're gonna have a +3 and a D6 when they apply effort. So it's going to be up to a 29, and it's going to be a minimum of 4. Is that right? 4 is going to be 1, 4, and if they apply effort, 5. So can I do it like this? $22, $25, $20. Because sometimes it's going to be just super easy for them to blow past us. It depends on how they build their character. If they put all of their bonuses into one stat, then everything else is a dump stat, and they're only going to occasionally be effective. But when they are effective, they're potentially very effective, which can be useful. Like having a team with a broad mix of distribution. Like one of our characters spread out their points and their proficiencies so that they've got it's a +3, +2, +1, 0, 0. No, it's a +3, +2, +1, +1, 0, 0. So they've +3, +2, +1, +1, 0, 0. Yeah, they put proficiency in their dump stats so that the -2 got neutralized with their bonus, so that it's a 0, and their -1 got neutralized and became a +1 instead. So at any given, whether they apply effort or not, their stat range is going to be 0 to +3. Another player in the team decided to focus on their abilities. So they have one that's a +5, and they have another one that's a -2. So it's got a much wider range, which is kind of cool. But they all eventually start scaling. They can all start pushing up, depending on how they distribute their points whenever they gain a new rank. But I don't think I want to push it. That's actually probably the right way to do this. So we'll start it like this. We'll see if this plays out properly. 4 to 6, 5 to 7, 6 to 8, and then 9. I didn't do that right. 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 6 to 9. There we go. How did I do that wrong? 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7. Thank you. 6, 7, 8. There it is. And then 7, 8, 9. There. That's going to be scale, difficulty. We tell them the difficulty that they're trying to achieve so they know whether or not they want to apply effort to a task or not. Or if friends are going to need to help them because they're not going to be able to roll high enough to achieve that difficulty. So there's different ways they can game the system, but I think I'm pretty happy with that. And then rewards. Reward is generally going to be, it's a delve. So, reward is going to be either or. What would I say? Like some sort of something that they can, not treasure, because like it wouldn't have gold laying around, but maybe there's like some sort of, the reward could be like maybe there those electric runes that were set up there. There had to be a reason why they would have wanted to have those runes set up there. Maybe there's some sort of like an altar or something that has magic that they can extract the magic to build something with. Not really sure about that. How would that go? Reward. I want to say relic. That's a good word. Relic is a... What is the definition of relic? I think that's the actual word I want to use. An object custom, I believe that is. Nice. Relic is the word that we're looking for. Bonus ore. Discovered relic. Or what's unexpected ally. There you go. So I can random these things up, and then let them kind of slurry together, and small story should be able to emerge from that. So we'll have to build one of those out. Maybe we'll build out a challenge like that we'll do that on Monday. So because we do this on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays until it's built out enough to be playable as is. So I'm going to go with challenge scale, difficulty, DC, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. There we go. Yeah, so on Monday we'll come back and I'm gonna let this marinate over the weekend, and see if it sits pretty. But so far I'm liking how this is feeling, so that's good. And we already have extractions resolved. I'm going to take this and drop it into our scrapbook down here. And now that we're down here with our characters, let's take a look. Relic is the word I wanted. Not token, relic. You can sacrifice a relic. Magic of a relic. Let's create a spell. Lore. Build a research facility where we can purchase spells and relics with resources to equip characters. Cool. Okay. Let's see. Commerce lore, loyalty, tasks. Sure. Events, creatures, inner hazards, and threats, scouting. There we go. Extraction complications. I think we're good with extraction as is. Delving is good as is. Combat. Let's see. Progress equals damaging target. Let's see. Complications equal HP loss. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. So, let's see. Turn cycle. Let's see. There are taking actions equals let's see. Success equals damage target. Progress. Yeah, keeping that term is good. Keeping progress. So progress is damaging a target by the degree of success. Complications equals increase or create new threat. Once per turn passive. Let's go with let's see. Players roll all the dice in this. So as a DM, I just narrate, hey, something's trying to shoot at you. They're using, it's a difficulty 4 to dodge the shot. How do you want to resolve that? And then they're going to use whichever ability score is available for them to do so. They'll make their die roll, and they'll either succeed or they'll fail. Hostile takes actions. I like the idea of them automatically taking down like one. They only have 10 hit points at first. They have 10 hit points per rank. So 10 hit points, 20, 30, 40, caps at 50, and sometimes they can increase their hit point amount up beyond that. But for the most part, it's just going to be 10 at first level. So the idea originally was every round that the characters haven't ended the combat, anywhere from 1 to all of the characters are going to take damage. Crap, is that an hour already? God, that's an hour already. All right, so I guess when we come back, I'm gonna have to spend some brain time on making sure I flesh out combat properly. But the way that it stands right now, the thought is that each at the beginning of each turn, rather at the beginning of each round, the team makes a defense check to see if they get hit or not. But there's two types of defense. There's mental, there's body and spirit. This is what it is, body and spirit. And they don't know what they're going to do until they have to do it. So if I have a difficulty 3 creature that's attacking the team, it would theoretically deal 3 points of damage that I could deal to one individual character, or I could deal across multiple characters that are within reach, anywhere from 1 to 3 points. Whittle that down from the 3 total that they have. If there's a mob, same thing. How many characters can the mob get to? So I guess it would be that mobs by default spread their damage out to as many opponents as possible, while bosses deal as much damage to a single source as they can. I like that difference. That makes boss fights incredibly dangerous. So I like that. So, what if they're always succeeding their die rolls and they never take any damage? That's probably going to be impossible because they're going to be hit. They have 6 stats and some of them are going to be dump. So they're going to be missing. They're going to be missing stuff. Maybe. Hostiles. Thank you. Can I do it so that creatures don't actually attack unless there's a complication? No, I want things to be proactive. But I don't want them to load up on dice. So out of combat, it's group initiative where everyone says what they're going to do and they can use help actions to pool their economy to be able to succeed tasks easier, and they have more opportunities to use their advantageous roles when they want to use them because they aren't in combat. Out of combat, they don't have the ability to be helpful unless they're sacrificing their actions to use them later as like a help action. So I guess what I can do is hostiles taking actions. Pool total difficulty of threats of hostiles. To distribute across team. I would then have to set base difficulty I'm in combat. It's each character goes in turn, and their complications can result in damage and response from creatures. But if they don't take any damage from any creatures, the creatures can still act on their own turn, forcing the team to make defense rolls that could cause them to take damage if they aren't able to defeat the roll. If they do defeat the roll, so how do I decide? Because it could be a mental, it could be a body or spirit attack. And if I have them roll at the beginning of the turn, then that means that they have to report 2 defense rolls. One is body, one is spirit, and that's causing them to double roll, which is clumsy. It is difficult and it is slow progress. And it'll be difficult for the DM to keep track of as well, and it's just going to slow the game down. So I don't want to do that. So I guess it's and so out of combat it's group initiative. Everyone acts together and can compile they can work in tandem to use their action economy together. But in combat, maybe it has to be parsed out character by character. That could keep things faster by having initiative automatically clicking in. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. Maybe a complication replaces the damage. Like they go, I go, 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 and is constantly rotating between those things. And so maybe if they create a complication, I make that complication maybe it's I have the set difficulty. Okay, so they go, I go, they go, I go. I always go after one of the players goes. And I only have as many turns. I only have as many turns as the team has turns. And so it's going to be split, 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 split. If the team attempts something and then fails, that's going to trigger a complication. And that complication then becomes the thing that I do during, the DM does during their turn. If the team succeeds with the task that they're doing, then there is no complication. I can then use whatever challenges are left on the board to force them. There we go. That's how it is. So hostilities taking actions. Hostiles take actions. So here's how it goes. Characters failing checks trigger complications. Characters succeeding checks trigger responses. Equals set difficulty. Equals degree of failure. So theoretically, if they fail the die roll, they won't make as much progress in defeating the challenge, But if you're fighting like if you're fighting a boss, right, and its difficulty is 5, and you succeed in attacking it, it's going to respond with a challenge 5 counterattack. If you fail your die roll, it's going to have respond with instead of it attacking a counterattack, it's going to have a complication, and your complication might only be 1 degree less than that of the creature, so it'll only be a DC 4 that you have to defend against. So it could actually be to your advantage to fail a check, because failing that check could mean that you have less difficulty resisting the attack that's coming in. But if you succeed, it leaves you open to be hit by the full force of a counterattack. It's up here. Right on, guy. But that's it for me today, too. I think that is a potentially very interesting system. So I'm going to let that percolate a little while. We're going to be back on Monday, and we're going to build a random dungeon. And we're going to see if I have any additional thoughts about combat and this resolution system. And then from there, the next task that'll be on our list will be resolving the rest of acquisitions. So we'll work backwards. So we'll go from delve back into combat and then to acquisitions, and then we'll continue from there. Fun stuff. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot for hanging out, Chronix. Appreciate you, man. And anyone else that thinks this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when we're live in the future. You can check out the full playlist here. Here's my Patreon. I'll have an updated Discord link here for you on my Patreon channel in a minute. And looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. Thanks a lot.